adjust this mic here a little bit since I'm a little shorter. Can you hear me? Good? Okay. I am not used to speaking behind a microphone, so. Good morning, my name is Jane Smolens, and I am the director and owner of Mountain Song Music Studio here in Boulder, Colorado, with the satellite center also up in Fort Collins, Colorado. And it's really, truly an honor to be here with you this morning and to share a little bit about myself and really pay tribute to Don Campbell and the work, the profound work that he did with so many areas of music. So I want to thank Dr. Thomas Reese for inviting me here, and the American Music Research Center, and Eric Hansen for coordinating this event. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my own personal background in music and the work that I do and how I came to know Don Campbell through the years and the impact that he had on my life and my work, and the way that I really hope, in a very humble way, I hope that I'm carrying forth his legacy, which is so cherished and so special. So Mountain Song Music Studio is a music center that offers a variety of music programs for children. And the flagship program that we offer is the Music Together program, which maybe some of you have heard of. It is an internationally renowned music and movement program for infants through 5-year-olds, and at this point it's taught internationally. So I have a center here in Boulder and a center up in Fort Collins. Music Together is a research-based program, and they just recently have celebrated their 25th anniversary year of providing family music making opportunities. And this is my anniversary year. Also, I'm going into my 15th year of directing and teaching this program. So I've hopefully reached hundreds of families in the Boulder area, Fort Collins area. I want to start out by just sharing a couple of short anecdotes, one of which happened really recently. I was exercising at one of the local Boulder recreation centers, and I was on one of those elliptical machines, and I had earplugs in my ears, and I was really in my own little tunnel watching the morning news, which was probably not the best way to start my day. And as I'm exercising, I hear somebody yelling out my name, Jane, Jane! And I'm like, I take my earplugs out, I'm like, what's wrong, what's wrong? And here comes a mom who I haven't seen in 10 years, who used to bring her child to one of my classes. And she said, Jane, I'm so glad to see you. I wanted to tell you that my son, who is now 12, he is so involved with music. He plays several instruments. He came home the other day wanting to play yet another instrument. He came home in tears because he was afraid that I would say no, his mother would say no. He tested really highly on the auditory processing of the evaluation that I guess they did in his school to determine his learning style. And she said, oh, and I saw you here exercising, I just wanted to come up and thank you. And she then continued to say, I have no idea how this happened because neither myself nor my husband have any musical background. We're scientists and mathematicians, and the only thing that I can attribute it to is the early exposure that he had with you when he used to come to your class. So she said, I just wanted to thank you. And I said to her, you know, it was great to see her, and I told her about the fact that I was going to be speaking here in a few days, and she said, oh, please, please tell my story, because it just really changed her son's life. And so that really, really touched me. And then another short anecdote was that a mother had called me this past year with also around 2-year-old son who was adopted from Taiwan. She adopted him from an orphanage at the age of 7 months. And he was now approaching the age of 2 and was having a lot of trouble learning how to speak English. And actually learning how to speak at all. And his only way of communicating to anyone was grunting. And so she was really frustrated, and he was frustrated because he couldn't communicate. And at the wonderful suggestion of his speech and language therapist, she recommended that he come to a Music Together class. So they came to my program. And within 3 weeks of being in the program, not only was he starting to speak words, but he was actually able to sing in sentences. And we learned, you know, earlier why that happens in the brain, but it's just putting this research into daily practice and bringing it down to the level where it touches families in their day-to-day lives. And that's how I hope that I'm carrying forth Don Campbell's legacy of his work with children and families. So how do I know Don and why am I here? I was trying to figure this out. I think I met Don about 30 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long. At that point he was running, I believe it was called the Institute of Music, Health, and Education, if I'm remembering the name correctly. For those of you who might have been here then and might remember, it was way up on West Arapahoe. I don't know if that building is still even there anymore. Is it still there? Yeah. And he was teaching a variety of workshops on toning, the impact of sound on healing, on our bodies, on our beings. It was somewhat esoteric in the sense of it was more of a little bit of a spiritual bent. He had just published the book that Kathy had shown, Our Musical Brain, and I was invited by a friend to come there because I was looking to see what was going on in Boulder musically, and it was just really like eye, heart, mind opening. And I was, and Kathy touched upon Don's personality. I was just so impressed with like his enthusiasm and his zeal and his passion, not to mention his incredible ability to do this overtone chanting. And it was just really, really great. So I read a bunch of his books. I was starting my own career in music education at the time, and I was trying to develop my own curriculum, and it really was influential in my work with children. So fast forward from like around 1986 to about 1999, I'm still developing my work with children and teaching, but at that point in time I had my own infant son, and I was looking for a music program for him. And so, because I knew the importance of early musical exposure, so I researched a variety of programs and came upon the Music Together program, actually at the RMCMA. And I went to a preview class there, and the program really, really resonated with me because of the way that it engages the whole child, and it incorporates movement, which is so vital in the early years. Actually, in any stage, movement is so critical, and Don talks about this so much. And I loved how it incorporated different musical genres. It really introduced complex tonalities and intricate rhythm patterns. It was way above your typical Mary Had a Little Lamb, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, for a sing-songy type of program. It was really deep and authentic, and I loved it. I loved it as a parent. My son loved it, and I said to myself after leaving this preview class, hey, I can teach this program. I want to teach this. So I went to the Music Together training in Denver in January of 1999, and as we're getting ready to start the workshop, everybody's starting to sit down. Who should sit down next to me but Don Campbell, who was also at that training, and he was just trying to educate himself as to what programs were around for early childhood musical development. At that point in time, he was in the process of writing the Mozart Effect for children. So we reconnected and chit-chatted, and it was really great to see him after so much time had passed. And then after the workshop was over, he approached me and said, I'm working on this Mozart Effect for children, and I need a little bit of help with an aspect of this book. Would you be interested in helping me? And of course I said, sure. And so what he wanted to do, which I really feel he did really effectively, was he really, again, wanted to bring the research of the Mozart Effect for children into daily life. And at the end of every chapter, each chapter is based on the different ages and stages of development. He wanted to give parents tools to bring this into their homes. So he wanted to have a list of well-known songs that families could utilize that would characterize those particular chapters. So my job was to compile a list of songs that would be listed at the end of the chapters that could be utilized to incorporate these ideas. So that was my project, relatively small in scope, but for me it was huge. And just to get to know Don was really wonderful. We would meet at his home, and I would get to know him. And the book was published in around 2002, and it was really incredibly well received. I really believe it's like the Bible, so to speak, of early childhood music. Anybody who's working with children, even if you're not teaching music, I think it's really important. information to have. And the CDs, the Mozart Effect CDs, were also a part of the Bright Beginnings program here in Colorado, the state of Colorado. Families who had newborns would leave the hospital with a Bright Beginnings packet, which included the Mozart Effect CDs to introduce to their newborns, which was really, really wonderful. So there was a lot of great exposure with that book. So fast forward again, another, gosh, 13 years, we would continue to keep in touch. We would see each other at workshops, at book signings, at various events. We'd run into each other at the grocery store. He was always so kind and always, you know, despite the fact that he's world-renowned, he's in the grocery store asking me about how I'm doing and how my family's doing. He was always really very personable. Then around January of, I guess it was 2012, if I'm getting the year correctly, a friend of mine I ran into said, "Did you hear the news about Don?" Because she knew of my connection with him, and I said, "What news?" And she said, "Well, he was recently diagnosed with pancreatic cancer." I'm like, "You're kidding me, I have no idea." This is in January. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to call him. I didn't know how to respond. Then a couple of months later in March, I get a call from him. And he calls me kind of urgently and says, "Jane, I really need to meet with you." And I went to his house, and it was a very short meeting because he was in a lot of pain and discomfort. But basically, his parting words to me was that he gifted a scholarship fund for me to utilize from my Music Together program for low-income families. And it was like, wow, just such an incredible honor. And such a bittersweet honor for obvious reasons. And so I went to work on this right away because I knew the time was really short for him, and I wanted to at least give him at least initial information of what I could do. So I had connections with the Boulder County Genesis program, which is a program for teenage families, providing services for teenage families in Boulder County. And through the Music Together outreach program and through the Boulder County Genesis program, I was able to start a scholarship fund to provide Music Together classes for teenage families. And I was actually able to tell Don that I was going to be able to do this, and I've been doing it now for 2 summers. I have to do it in the summer because teenagers are in school during the year. But this has been a really great opportunity, and my approach with the teenagers is really different than with my regular families, because I really highlight the impact of bonding and the use of music to communicate, to find alternative ways to communicate with your child, to hopefully break whatever cycle of abuse or neglect or whatever might be going on, to really use music in a healing, bonding, communicative way. So that's been my focus with the teenagers. So I have a few just quick slides to show you. This is courtesy of Music Together LLC. This is just of some of the what we do in class together. Let's see, where are my notes on this? Hang on. So you've been staring at this for a while. This is just, Don Campbell would always say, you know, it really doesn't matter what program your child is involved with. The early exposure is really what's critical, and the enthusiasm of the teacher. And I like to think of myself as being very enthusiastic. There's a really enthusiastic teacher going on there, really engaging the children. Again, it's a research-based program, been around for a really long time. It's a mixed age format where parents come with their children. Music Together is based on the philosophy that all children are musical. This is a really profound thought when you think about it. All children are musical. We are wired to be musical. And that all children can achieve basic music competence if they are given the proper exposure, early exposure. Don talks about that critical window being really between birth through age 3 is really when those connections are being made. Parent participation is really vital, and I tell parents, like, you don't need to sing. In fact, I love parents who can't sing because it enables them to sort of let down their guard. We talk about letting down our guard with improvisation. We let down our guard when the families are together and when they're with their children. Music Together is play-based. Children learn through play. We're not teaching anything formal, but we're planting the seeds for musical growth and development. We follow their lead. We let them play with different instruments. There's a lot of interaction. We love having all family members, dads, moms, grandparents. It's a really great way for children to bond with their parents. I think it's a really great stress relief for parents to come to class every week. I think it's just, they can let go of whatever else is going on in the world and in their lives and just be with their child, in a present way. I love this picture. This is like the quintessential picture, and we are just wired for music. You would be amazed what babies can do musically. Even though Music Together is mixed age, we do start with babies, and actually I have a lot of pregnant moms, so we actually start in utero. Babies can match pitch, babies can bounce to music. The interaction, the eye contact, the social, emotional component is really, really, really important. Where does my body begin and end in space? How do I interact with others? We do a lot of play with babies in different positions and in different interactions. The bonding element, as I mentioned, is just really, really important. I always tell parents, even if you think you can't sing, your child loves the sound of your voice. And lullabies are such a powerful way for parents to connect with their children. And Don talks about the power of lullabies in his book. Just other ways of bonding. We talk about developing a deep, as Kathy mentioned, we're not just hearing sounds, we're developing a sense of listening through instrument play. How do different sounds make us feel? We're developing eye-hand coordination, fine motor skills at a really young age. Improvisational skills at a really young age. How does this music make my body feel? What do I want to do with my body as toddlers, as children get older in the toddlerhood? Movement is so vital to their bodies, and when we listen to music, it activates the motor cortex of our brain, so it makes us want to move. It makes us want to drum. Children start to feel a steady beat more in terms of their own internal drummer, but as they turn around age 2 or so, they're able to start to keep a steady beat, start to expressively move, and get a sense of just who they are. Different pictures of movement here, and just pure joy. Don really, I think, above all else, he really emphasized the joy that music brings us, and the joy that music brings children. If we're having fun, we're going to learn. If we're not having fun, we're not. As children get older, we really try to still keep it relatively informal, because I think parents are they want to push their children so much into the formal aspects so quickly, and not all children are ready for that. I think the improvisation piece is really, really important. So we let children create and improvise, and wherever they're at, developing a sense of community with other children. As teenagers get older, they're so isolated in their musical listening experience. It's all about the iPod and where's my little musical cubicle. We try to continue that sense of musical community, which I think is really important for all of us, not just children. So there you have it. Anyhow, those are just some photos of what I do with children, and again, it's been an honor to be here with you today, and I really hope that I'm keeping Don's legacy alive through the program I'm doing with the Genesis program and my families here in Boulder and Fort Collins. Thanks again for having me.